Oh, my name is Vasco da Gama. I'm 375 years old. I was born in Portugal. I discovered America before Columbus, but nobody believed me. But my new name is John Berggruen. And presently I'm standing in the Berggruen Gallery at 10 Hawthorne Street in San Francisco, California. The painting behind me, which is this one, I believe, by David Park from 1959. Well, that's close enough. And he was probably the most early prominent member of the Bay Area figurative group, which was a loosely formed alliance of various painters who were associated with each other in terms of camaraderie, their practice, and their vision, and their talent. This lovely painting here by Richard Diebenkorn is from the Albuquerque series from 1951. That is an early date for the Albuquerque series. And why Albuquerque? Because he was teaching at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. And of course, he was inspired, if you look at this, by the desert landscape. And how was he inspired? Because he went up on a helicopter. You know what helicopters are, yes? Good. And he had this vista or vantage point of being high up and looking down at the desert terrain, the desert colors. So this was part of a series, and this is a great example. The scale is wonderful because some of them are, this is about the largest size he did at the time, and some are quite a bit smaller. And this has wonderful elements throughout it, and we're lucky to have it. Since it happens to be for sale, that's important, because we got to keep the lights burning and keeping my lovely, hardworking staff well fed. Meeting Diebenkorn was a great thrill for me because he was a nice man and he took a shine to my illustrious, infamous behavior. And so he was, I would say, one of my early mentors by virtue of his ability to kind of understand me, I guess. And I certainly looked up to him. At that time, he was living in Los Angeles, and that's where this group of paintings called the Ocean Park series was produced at his studio in the Ocean Park area of Santa Monica. And there was inspiration by virtue of being near the ocean in a new environment, because he had been working in Sausalito and then various universities where he taught. He produced a body of work, about 120 of these large Ocean Park paintings. I think it was about 120. It's the best one we've had in years. They're hard to come by. They're quite expensive, and we just feel great to have this painting here. And somebody, please buy it. Thank you. This extraordinary painting by Elmer Bischoff was painted in 1958, and I have to tell my audience that this extraordinary painting with this figure, that figure is not me. So people say, well, God, is that John? Well, in 1951, I was like 8 years old, I think, even though I'm that much older now. And he did a series of these paintings, landscape and figures, some interiors at the time. And he was a good friend of Richard Diebenkorn, David Park, Wayne Thiebaud later on. They had a drawing group that would go, they would draw together with a model, a live model, or dead. I don't think the model was alive. And that was part of their friendship. This lovely work on paper is by Paul Warner from 1962. And Paul Warner not only had a gift as a painter, but certainly as doing works on paper, whether it be gouache, watercolor, mixed media. These three works here, but this one in particular, I think are lovely examples of his doing interiors with colors, the extraordinary palette in terms of his production. And we've always done well with him as far as our sales and his practice, and that was a lovely part of his career. I think a lot of the paintings in this exhibition are exceptionally good examples of these various artists' careers. This painting called Interior with Flowers by Richard Diebenkorn was painted in 1961. It's a nice counterpoint to the Berkeley series, and then this, which is part of what some people call the figurative series. The figure was in the bed, but the figure left. So now it's still part of these interiors he did. This was in a wonderful collection here in San Francisco for years. In that collection were paintings by Matisse, Picasso. And to have this painting, which was in the entranceway to the owner's bedroom, I used to see it when I went to visit, and then she passed away and I was able to buy it shortly thereafter, and it's been in my home. And now, sadly, I have to part with it. If someone would buy it, please. This large and quite extraordinary painting is by Nathan Oliveira from 1961. Oliveira was also part of the Bay Area figurative movement. These early paintings were exhibited in New York, I think in a museum in Washington, D.C. We started representing Oliveira probably around 1984 or so. He and I hooked up and had a wonderful, wonderful relationship for those 25, 30 years. But this is a wonderful example of the figurative work he did against this kind of background and his, again, his palette and all that. To me, it's one of the best paintings in our show. And somebody should buy it now. And finally, this painting in our show of Bay Area, historical Bay Area painters. And Joan Brown was perhaps a later addition to that group, but an important element by virtue of, I think she was the only woman that was seriously considered in terms of a number of exhibitions, some museum shows early on in her career. And this is an early painting of hers, and it's called Marching to Battle, which is either, I think, from a poem or a hymn or something. It's a wonderful painting by virtue of the scale, and I think the texture and the depiction of whomever's marching to battle. Maybe they're in the background, maybe this is, I don't really know, but it belongs to a friend of mine, and I saw it in he has it in his office, and I thought it was just a wonderful, wonderful painting to be included in this show, and he said yes, but unfortunately it's not for sale, but make me an offer.